Troy with V-Twins to VH back on the 240Z project. This time I'm working on the driver's side. We're going to start just like we did on the other side. We're going to do this quarter panel. We're going to get our wheel flare all fitted and flared up on here like we did on the other side. So let's get at it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip that flare, hammer it out, so that I can start placing it up here. Now, there's a really weird patch on here. I don't know whether I'm going to leave it alone or mess with it. That is going to remain to be seen. But first thing I want to do is I want to get my flare ready to go on here and kind of position. So that's where we're going to start. So here we are on my quarter. So what I did first was I took my flare, I ground it down, and I hammered and dollied all of the wheel open, all of the holes that were recessed into this. I got those all flattened out. Now, what I did was I measured my wheelhouse center line and my center line on the quarter right here, and I measured from here to here and from here to here on my other flare that I have over here on this side, because I want to make sure that my flare is in the same position, either up or down or forward and backwards. So now the next thing I'm going to want to do, I think, is I'm going to take a measurement from my center line of the inner wheelhouse to the outside of this, because what I'm seeing is I have that nice bow that I really like on this side, and my quarter panel on this side is clearly depressed in this area. I mean, it's flat and it's not right. So I'm gonna make a measurement from in there to out here and see if I can figure out where that needs to go. Once I figure that out, then I'll probably have to cut some of this panel and get this panel moving out. Same thing with my quarter is all in over here. I gotta finagle that around a little bit, but it's just the way it is. So we're just starting into this quarter, and I had to cut out this whole wheel opening, and then we've got some rust on the inside, we've got some scraggliness here, and down here what happened was this quarter was way up here. So I don't know what the hell they did. So what I did was I just cut it and sectioned it a little bit, not even much. It was almost like the width of the cutoff wheel. Got it dropped down a little bit. Now I got my other piece, I had to reposition it because this body line was just crazy. And now I've got a wide line up there and a narrow line down here, and I'm gonna have to mess around with that tomorrow and get that squared away and get this area here welded up. Then I'll weld a tang all the way around this. I'll make my wheelhouse come down, and then I'll make my patch go over this, and it'll weld to that tab, kind of like what I got going on here and here. That's what's behind this. But that's the name of that tune. I mean, this is a dirty ass job, and tomorrow's another day. Okay, so we're back on Friday. Gonna work on this quarter panel here. Gonna work on getting this body line right. I got me a piece of sheet metal over here to make a quarter panel and an inner quarter, and we are going to have at this. Okay, so I'm back on my quarter situation now. What I did was I trimmed back my wheelhouse, got rid of all the ragged edges that I had. Okay, I repositioned my bottom piece over here so I have a nice body line. I got a good body line here and it's flush, and I removed my piece and then put it back on to get this body line right. Now, it's just tacked on the inside, and then I welded this tang all the way around where my patch is, okay? And the reason I did that was because I have this piece here. This is my original piece that came off the quarter. I'm gonna take this piece and use it to make a pattern to cut a new piece of sheet metal that's gonna fit in this opening, and I'm gonna show you why. if I take this piece of sheet metal, you can see it pretty much fits right in there. Now, if I use this as a pattern, I can just make my piece a little bit bigger, a little finagling, a little finessing around the edges, and I'll have a patch that'll be a good start. And then once I get the patch made, I can trim it so it'll fit all my edges here. And then I can bend it to get my body line, and then I can punch some holes in it so I can weld it or screw it here, and then I can fit my flare on like I did the other side. So before I get too far ahead of myself, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna make a patch out of it, make a pattern for a patch out of it. So as you can see, I made my piece. This is the piece that I cut out. And there, my friends, is the new piece that I shall be putting in. Now, the thing of it is with this piece is, I trimmed it a little bit big, and of course, it's completely flat right at the moment. So now, what I gotta do is, I'm gonna trim this top along here, along that line. That'll get me to where I need to be there, and my length is actually pretty darn good. So once I'm gonna trim that top, and then I'm gonna start putting some bend in this and seeing how it comes along. So we got our patch kind of propped up there, and I got it to the point where it fits pretty decent. I might have to trim a couple of spots and down here, but what I'm gonna do is I wanna get my arc and I wanna get my body line. So what I did was I took a straight edge, I marked my body line here, and I marked my body line on my door and quarter over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a straight edge on here, and I'm gonna put a line right down the middle. That's gonna tell me where my body line is and where to put a crease in this quarter. And not only do I have to crease this here, I'm probably gonna have to put a little roll into this top. And then once I do that, then I can start thinking about trimming the bottom pieces. But the reason I haven't trimmed the bottom is because once I put that bend in it, it's going to make this shorter. So if I cut it now and I put that arc in it, I may be too short over here, and I don't want to be. So next thing is a body line and a little bend, and we'll refit it. So I got the thing kind of rounded off, and I really like the way it looks when I look down this quarter. It's got the right arc to it. My seams are looking pretty good. I like this. I like this. This in here, if you remember, our wheel openings are all going to be covered by the flare. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it back off, and where I marked all these holes, I'm going to make a bunch of punch holes here so I can put a few more screws in it. Then I'll be able to take and fit my flare on here and see how that's going to look. Well, it's going to kind of round this week out. This is our flare setup, just kind of clamped on there. And my patch is basically just kind of set on there with some screws. But overall, I really like the way this is shaping up. I think it's gonna look really good when it's done, and really wraps up the week. Over here on the other side of the car, you can see I got my front flares all on, back's all on. I got a piece of tape here for my center line so I can get the measurements and make sure that this quarter and the way that this quarter, the flare is on here, is identical to the one I got over here, which I do believe that it is. I got my flare just clamped on there. I have to mess with my ends and get it all fitted and measured and everything. I just wanted to get a look at, you know, overall how it was going to look. But I think it's starting to really shape up. I'm liking the way it's looking, and thank you for tuning in. Continue to watch the project, and please like and subscribe, and good luck on your project. So I took my patch off, trimmed my edges. This is my patch laying over here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray the inside of this and all of my adjacent welding areas that I need to weld to with some zinc weld from SEM. That will prevent any rust in between these panels. This I'm gonna treat and with a Sems rust mort, and it'll convert that and it'll kill that rust. So I'm gonna do that. Then I'm gonna spray while I'm spraying these other panels, let all that stuff dry. And then we're going to put this panel back on, set our screws in, and then we're gonna begin some welding. So now I've trimmed my areas where I was making contact. I sprayed my whole inner quarter with weld-through primer on my tabs. I got the back side of this primed, and I put this together with the screws. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld it in these areas over here, maybe a couple of tacks at the top, and basically just kind of get it tacked. So the next thing that I can do is work on my flare. And the problem with having screws down in this area here is it interferes with my flare sliding against this. So if I'm gonna put tacks here and here, I definitely gotta put a few around to make sure that I don't have any warpage and I maintain my shape, because I got a nice body line here like this, and I'm really happy with the arc that we got kind of going in here. It doesn't have that flat look like when we started. It's got the right look. Now, as long as I don't get too crazy with my welding, if I need to arc this a little bit more to make my flare fit right, I shouldn't have any problem doing that. Okay, so I've got my bottom part of my patch is all tacked in behind here, and I've taken a bunch of measurements from my other side to make sure that my flare is in position. So now what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna tack a few spots on the flare, I'm gonna tack a few spots in this patch, and I'm gonna keep bouncing around until I get it where I like it. And then I'll probably start working on, you know, getting this the inside of the wheel opening and then the wheelhouse. So we'll just kind of keep working along at it. Okay, so end of the day for me today. I think it's been a pretty good day. I got my patch tacked, and I got my flare fitted, and yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, I got it tailed in over here, I got it blended in over there. Tomorrow I'm gonna work on making my inner wheelhouse, so that's all the way that it should be. I've done all my measurements to make sure my wheelhouse is centered where it's supposed to be, the height is right, the setback is right on both ways, and it's as far as I can do with all my measurements, it's identical to the other side. So not that you can see both sides at one time, but it really, for me anyways, needs to be right. So I get that all set. I'll work on the inner quarter tomorrow, and then we'll be on to the front fender and bigger and better things. Okay, so we're back on our 240Z project, and we're gonna work on finishing this inner quarter. So like I did on the other one, I'm gonna make a piece that's gonna go right across here and fill this in, and a piece that's gonna come in here like this and lay right on there flat. I'll refresh your memory. This is what I've got over here on the other side. It just kind of goes along here like this. So that's what we'll be working on next. So here we are. We got our whole inside of this wheel opening all made. The wheelhouse, it's tied into the flare. This thing is super solid. I'm gonna fire up the grinder and grind this down, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so this is what we look like now that we're all ground and welded, and I think it looks pretty good. I'll roll it over in a minute and we'll be able to take a look at the inside of the inner wheelhouse, but I think it's looking really nice. I got a nice smooth line going on here, got a pretty respectable door line I can clean up afterwards, and yeah, I like it. So this is the inside of my wheelhouse now, and I got it all patched up and ground up and welded up and yada yada, and I think I'm in pretty good shape. I got my whole panel ground. I ran over it with the file to check, make sure I don't have any high spots. And at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up some Everglass, and I'm gonna Everglass all of these areas and get things started, much like I have over here. So that's what I'm gonna be doing now. I'll come back on, show you what it's all about. Okay, folks, So we're back. I mixed up some Everglass and I got it spread out all over my seamed areas, also on the inside, as well as the outside. I did inside my door jamb, and this is a product that I use on all of my seamed areas. I also do the inside of my panel where I made my patch lap on the inside. I like to sandwich it, gives it a good seal. So anyways, that takes care of our quarter. We're gonna move on to getting this fender aligned, the bottom of it fixed like we did on the other side, and then working into this whole fender flare situation. So that's what's going on next.